Okay,
Yeah.
Tamara is going to be watching the chat for me. So those of you that are joining us virtually, I hope that, number one, I hope we have all of your names written down. I'm going to write Rhonda's down because I saw her on there. Am I missing anybody? Tamara, I got Gwen, Lou, and Rhonda. Anybody else on there?
That's all.
Okay. Well, if some others join us. Tara Cole. Okay. Tara's on there. And we may have a few others coming in joining us, and that's okay. We've saved a couple of front row seats here for them. So, okay. So today we're going to talk about Google Hangouts, and Google Hangouts is, well, it's a couple of things. It's a way to communicate with your daughter when she's in Austria for the semester. We spent $0 talking to Jessica while she was over there because we just did a Google Hangout every time we wanted to talk to her, and it didn't cost us a penny. So think about your family. Does anybody still pay for long distance anymore? I mean, if you're paying for long distance, you're really wasting your money because literally Google Hangouts you can call from the computer. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But it is a great way to communicate with students. My understanding, I've heard the number 10 and 15 thrown around. Safely, I would say you could get 10 people in a Hangout. That would probably be the maximum. And you're probably going to be pushing the limit of bandwidth in the room as far as people dropping out or their cameras being kind of splotchy looking or something like that. So, but all that to say, Google is a fantastic way to communicate with students. You'll probably be surprised at the sheer number of things that you can do with it. It's scary good. And I learned a lot of new things today, actually, myself, as I was working on this morning, right before training started. So I've had a few other things on my plate this week. We're maybe a week out from taking possession of our house. So Michelle and I are very excited about that. So plus Valentine's Day, I mean, you got to pick things for wives and kids. It's just crazy. So, okay, so Google Hangouts. So what, if you want to access this presentation, there's a link that you can do if you want to write that down for future reference. That is the letter P, 224, capital B, and the letter H, just in case. If you want to access this later, there's a couple of videos at the end of this that you'll be able to watch that will help you out. And if those of you that are on virtually, if you're unable to see the screen very well, you can certainly go to that web address and kind of follow along as we go. So, any questions before I get started? Probably going to learn way more than you wanted to know about Google Hangouts. This can be as simple or as complicated as you'd like for it to be. Doesn't have to be complicated, but it can be if you want it to be. There's a whole lot of, you know how you buy the car with all the bells and whistles, but you only use like you don't use the remote start, you don't use the app on your phone and all that kind of stuff. Well, this has all of that stuff, but you don't have to use all that stuff. You can just get in and turn the key on and go.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Is this presentation that you said access this presentation, is that a Google Hangout?
No, it's not a Hangout actually, but it's just a Google Doc. I actually thought about doing a Google Hangout for this, doing like a live Google Hangout on air so that I could then show you guys later. But because we've kind of centralized on Adobe Connect, I can't do them both at the same time. So I decided I would just stick with Adobe Connect and we'll have a recording of this. So, but remind me to talk a little bit later if I don't mention Google Hangouts on air. That's a super important one. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, first we're going to talk very, very briefly about Google+. And this is not a class about Google+, but I'm going to give you a resource at the end that will help you set that up. Why would I give you that at the end? Because I want you to pay attention to everything else I'm saying about Google Hangouts And there's a great video. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Someone else made a fantastic video on how to set up your Google Plus account. He takes you step by step. If you've never done anything with Google Plus, he will walk you through it. If you've already set Google Plus up, then we can kind of talk about that a little bit at the end if you'd like. We'll talk a little bit about YouTube because this Google Hangouts on air, not just plain Hangouts, Google Hangouts on air, and I'll tell you what the difference is with those two in a little bit. You have to verify your YouTube account. I also have a video for that I'll show you, that I'll give you at the end because I don't want everybody watching the video while I'm up here talking. That will show you step by step how to verify your YouTube account, and it's really very, very easy. So I'm going to give you guys some resources at the end. Those videos that will help you. There was no point in me redoing a video because I couldn't have made them as professional as these guys did. So we're going to start by talking, actually, I kind of did my list here backwards. We're going to start with the last thing and work our way the other way. So we'll talk a little bit about uses. Limitations, I've already told you the main limitation, which is 10 people in the room. I don't recommend any more than that, and I don't think you're allowed to have more than that either. It really works best with about 5 or 6, probably. It's probably your best bet. So think about this as a way to communicate with students in small groups. Don't get your whole class in there. Divide your students up into groups and have multiple Hangouts that you go to. And then we'll talk about on air. So let's just talk briefly about Google Plus, and I know that you guys in here can't see that very well. Basically, this is just a screenshot of my Google Plus page. I'm one of the weirdo people that actually uses Google Plus and gets on there, and there are a lot of people that share some unbelievably good photographs on Google Plus. That's primarily what people are sharing, photographs and videos, and so I enjoy doing that. So this is what my Google Plus page looks like. Basically what you're looking at here is this is like a Facebook feed sort of thing, and so it's telling me today's JC's birthday. Thank goodness that I was reminded of that so I could text him this morning when I first got up. I'm kidding. It's Valentine's Day. Of course I would remember his birthday. Jessica's another story. No, I'm just kidding. And so, you know, it's telling me here, well, maybe there's some people that I know. Do I want to add them to my feed? One thing about Google Plus is if you have a blue head, the guy talks about this in the video at the end. He says, like, you don't want to have a blue head as your picture. So one of the things that you would definitely want to do is put a profile picture there. But I can tell that these folks right here probably don't use Google Plus very often because they haven't updated their profile. So that's just a little bit of trivia for you. The events that I do, like this event is an event that I've done through Google Plus, and that's how I invite you. How many of you guys get an email about these things ever when I see some nodding heads? Okay, good. If you use Google Plus, you can set up a circle. So I have an online circle of faculty, a circle of online faculty, and I can invite that circle, which has like 75 people in it, to an event. So they immediately get an email. It automatically shows up on their Google Calendar. They can respond there. They can respond from the email. It's a great way, Sheree, am I right? I mean, it really simplifies. If you have events where you invite people to them, set up a circle for your class and invite them all to a test, right? I mean, it would automatically show up on their Google Calendar.
That's not what I did, though. So I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
I went in and.
You do it through the calendar. Oh, okay.
No, I put in
yeah, so make a circle of your Gen Ed people. There you go. So make a circle.
one circle and then.
Yeah. Okay, enough about Google Plus. I'm basically showing this to you because Google Hangouts is native to Google Plus, and you're going to have to do something with Google Plus to use Hangouts. Okay? So I'll give you a resource for setting Google Plus up at the end. YouTube. You're going to have to verify your YouTube channel to do a Google Hangout on air, not just a plain Google Hangout. If you want to do Google Hangouts on air, you're going to have to verify your YouTube channel. So what does on air mean? On air means that it is it's live, so people can go to YouTube and watch it, And it's also being recorded for you automatically. So you get a YouTube address that you can then give to people and say, hey, come to my live event or whatever, my Google Hangout. The last time we had Olympics, NBC was like piloting live events on air for YouTube. And I watched a lot of Olympics up here. I shouldn't say that. I had a lot of Olympics on the screens up here while I was working. And so it's just like watching a YouTube video, except it's live at that time.
You
Yes,
said
sir.
it's being recorded. Where is it being recorded?
On YouTube.
Okay.
So the link is the same for the recording and for the live event. It just turns into a recording. Question?
Terry Cole had a question. She says, can more people view it that way?
Yes. Yes. So think about if you want, you want a group of people to be just one way. They're not taking part in what you're doing in the Hangout. They're just watching it. So maybe you have 5 people in the Hangout listening to a speech, but you want other people to actually hear the speech, but they're not going to be able to like ask questions or take part in the discussion. So more than you can have a bazillion people, if that's even a number, watching on YouTube if you want to. There's no limit to the number of people that can watch it as it's happening. There's just a limit to the number of people who can actually be in the virtual room. Does that make sense? Okay. So how did I get here on YouTube? I went to youtube.com. I signed in, and then here at the top there's an upload button, and there's a little arrow beside that. I clicked that and I went to the dashboard. There are only 3 options there. I went to the dashboard, which is this link right here. And then I clicked on channel settings right down here. And so you can see right here that my account is verified. Unless you've done this, your account will say not verified, and there will be a link for you to verify your account. Okay, so go to YouTube, sign in, click the drop down button, go to dashboard, and then click on channel settings on the left. And you'll be able to verify. So you can see that I've been a good person. I'm in good standing in the community. I don't have any copyright strikes against me. My content ID claims, all of that. And notice the one right here that says longer videos. You can upload videos longer than 15 minutes. That is the key. If you are going to do Hangouts on air, you must verify because they don't know how long your event is going to be. And they don't want to shut you off at 15 minutes. So you could upload a 5-hour video on YouTube. Heaven forbid that you would upload a 5-hour video, but you could, okay? So that is the reason that we have to do this for YouTube. It's just for Hangouts on air. If you're not ever going to do anything with Hangouts on air, forget about YouTube. Make sense? Okay. Talk way too much about that. Okay, so how do you start a Hangout? Well, we're back here on my Google Plus page. And if you look right down in the bottom right-hand corner, it says Start a Video Hangout. This is my chat list right over here. Actually, this is what Google now calls Hangouts. They don't call it chat anymore. Okay, so let's flip over to, let's go to the mail so that you can see what this looks like. And so you can see that here's my chat and here are all of my people. Notice that some of these people have a little video right next to them. That tells you that those people can do a video hangout with you. They don't need to install the plugin. That's all that's telling you. There's a plugin that has to be installed.
But what if we don't have that yet? Can we still use
Yes. No, you'll have to download the plugin. You'll have to download the plugin. Good question. And the first time you go to do a hangout, it'll make you download it. So one of the ways that you can get into Hangouts is you can just from your email, you can just, I could do a video hangout with Kathy just by going right here to the little video button. I could chat with her. That we're just chat. You guys are all familiar with chat like I am. And then here's the other thing. Let's go with Chi-Chi. I could actually just call her. I could just call her computer. It's not a video thing, but we would just be talking via the computer. Why don't we have a telephone system on campus again? I'm confused. Right? Okay. That's just a thought. Okay. One thing down here, notice that Michelle's not online, but I can still actually call. I can actually call Michelle because she has. I have her cell phone in my contacts, so I can actually call somebody's phone from my computer. This morning, Doug Samples sent me an email. He said, "Hey, call me on my cell phone." I clicked his cell phone. It opened a Hangout with me and his cell phone, and it called him, and I just talked to him. Never touched my phone. One click. So easy. We can talk later about Google Voice if you're interested, because you're like, well, what phone number are they going to see coming off of that? Well, he saw my Google Voice number. That's because I have a Google Voice number set up. If you don't have a Google Voice number set up, I don't know what number they're going to see. It could be from California, something. Yeah. So, okay. So that's one way to get into Hangouts. The other way to get into Hangouts, let me just go to my Google Plus page.
Jody.
Yes, sir.
Before that, when you call through the computer, can you do international calling as well?
Yes, absolutely.
So it puts in all the prefix numbers?
You have to put in the prefix number, or you can select from a group of countries. But you would have to have Google Plus set up for that, because it's going to make you add credit. But it's 2 cents to call most countries, 2 cents a minute. Super cheap, really cheap. I put $10 on there, and I've used maybe 20 or 25 minutes of talk time, and I still have like over $9 left on there. It's ridiculously cheap. Okay, so how would we get into a Google Hangout? We just come right here and start a video Hangout. If I'm starting a video Hangout like this, I'm going to type in who I want to invite. Otherwise, I can just choose from the list. Those are all people that I could hang out with. Question?
There's a question online, and Lou wants to know if the person that you call, do they have to have an SMU email account?
No, they do not. They just have to have a Google account. That's a great question, because we're kind of talking about this, assuming that everyone has a Google account. All of your students have Google accounts because they have an SMU email address. Great question. Go ahead.
For our students, it works, but if you're calling some random person, they need to set up a Google account.
That's correct. Or you can just call their cell phone if you have their cell number. Either way. They have to have a Google account if you're just going to click on something and say start a Hangout with them. Okay? Okay. Excellent questions. Other questions before we move on?
Is that the same, not using voice, but to do a Google Hangout over the computer? I mean, not to talk
Right.
on, voice, but
to do a Google Hangout, they will
they
need
have
to
to have
a Google account.
a Google account
That's
of some
correct.
kind.
It doesn't have to be an SMU email
Right,
address, just a Google account.
Just a Google.
That's correct. Okay, so I would go down here to the bottom. I would click Start a Video Hangout, or I would just click on one of these people and start a Hangout. Okay, so once I do that, then I get this little thing up and it says Post a Video Hangout Invitation. Let's just say that I am sitting in my office, I'm bored out of my skull, and I just want to talk to somebody. So I'm just going to invite everyone at SNU to come to a Hangout. So I would put a little message there, and then I know you guys can't see that because I can barely see it. It says add names, circles, or email addresses right here. So if I've added people to my circles, I can type their names, first few letters of their name, and choose those people. And that would then post an invitation for them. So if I started typing Michelle, then her name would come up, and I would just hit tab and go on to the next name or whatever. This list here, I could invite everyone in my circles. I could just say, hey, I'm in a Hangout. Anybody in my circles, come on and visit. And it would just pop up on their Google Plus page. Well, what if they're not on their Google Plus page? Well, it may take some time. They'd probably get an email that would say, hey, you've been invited to a Hangout. Do you want to join that? Or it would pop up in the chat on their Gmail page, something like that. If I don't have them in a circle, so I just typed in Luke McGrath, lmcgrath@mail.smu.edu. He's one of my freshman council members. I don't have him in a circle. In fact, I can tell he's not even on Google Plus, probably because he has that little blue head right there. But I can invite him just like that. No problem. I can also choose this next option here is to send an email to Luke McGrath. It would send an email to him with the invite right there. So as long as he's sitting on his email or is checking it regularly, He'd get that, click on it. If he doesn't have the plugin installed, it would say, hey, install the plugin. We go from there. Okay, I mentioned earlier, this was what my screen looked like when I called Doug this morning on his cell phone. I just clicked on his cell phone and it said, do you want to call this number? I clicked call and it popped up a new window and I talked to Doug and I said, hey, what number showed up when I called you? He recited back my Google Voice number to me and we were talking, no problem. And then when I was done, I just clicked the little hang up button right here. I could click the keypad. You know, if I'm calling the credit union or something like that, I never do anything personal business while I'm on the clock here. I'm kidding. If I needed to type in something, I'm glad you guys found that. If I needed, I know, right? I'm just laying my heart out there. If I needed to type something in, I can get a keypad to punch in some numbers or something like that. Okay, so what does it look like for somebody once you've invited them to a Hangout? On their Google Plus page, they're going to get a notification right here, and it says hashtag Hangout post, and I would click this button. I invited myself because you guys know the orc@mail.snu, that's me also. So I invited that address, and I looked on that Google Plus page so I could show you guys what this would look like. So I invited myself to a Hangout. So I clicked Join Hangout, and this is what it looks like. So here's me looking at myself, right? It's crazy, right? Here's me looking at myself in a Hangout. And so this is the one that's hosting the Hangout, and this is the one that's in the Hangout, right? So there's two of me and one Hangout from two computers, not from one computer. Don't want you to get confused, okay? So we've got several things to look at here, and so basically this is what a Hangout looks like. Number one, if you have more than two people in the Hangout, whoever's talking, that's whose face is going to be on the big screen. So it'll switch. So like me and Michelle and Mel Kaiser are in a Hangout. When they're talking over one another, which is about half the time, it just keeps flipping between their faces, right? So you can click on one person if you just want that person to be up there. And then if you click on that person again, then it goes back to switching between whoever's talking. Yes?
Jody, I sent an email to Gwen
Uh-huh.
Hackler, and it says your post has been shared. Leave this window open.
Whenever
How
she
does she
sees,
know?
whenever she sees that post.
Okay, can we tell her to hurry up? She's on.
Oh,
typing
she's
on here.
okay. Yeah, she's typing.
Okay,
on
because
there.
I want to see if
Yep.
we can get connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so this is what it looks like inside the Hangout, and I'm going to talk about all of these buttons over here. But first, I want to talk about these buttons up here. These buttons up here, that first one is a little person's head with a plus. If you want to invite more people, you want to go kind of like you're going back to the part where you're inviting people in. It'll pull that window up so you can invite people. The next one over is the mute microphone. If you're not talking, that's what you should do, is mute your microphone.
Gwen's here.
So she might want to mute her microphone. That's why we get that echo. The next one.
Quiet down, girl.
The next one is the camera. If you want to turn your camera off, I recommend to you with your students, if they're not actively participating, turn their camera off. That gives more bandwidth to other cameras. You get a clear picture, et cetera, et cetera. So actually, it's hard to tell from this, but this picture was really, really clear because that's the one that I was wired. This picture is not as clear because I'm on wireless. So whatever signal is being sent and whatever's being received, that's what's going to determine the quality of your picture. Make sense? Okay.
And I did this with some students that had poor internet,
Yes.
so that causes the real problem.
Yes. You can actually, if you have students who have poor internet, you can change the bandwidth of the room. It's going to try and have a really high bandwidth automatically. But if you have students who don't have a really high bandwidth, click this button right here that looks like a little wireless symbol. And you can, it's a slider to adjust the bandwidth for the room. You can turn it up or down. This next one, if you have multiple cameras, multiple microphones, You know, you've got a student that they can't hear you. Well, they need to select, or you can't hear them. If they're not muted, they might need to select a different audio source. Maybe you can't see them. They need to select the correct camera or something like that. So when I'm in there, there's 3 different cameras in there and 4 different microphones. So it just picks the one it thinks you want to use, but I can go in manually on the little gear symbol right here and change those. If I want to hang up, I've got the little red hang up button. Make sense?
Okay, and that's what the student does. Because when they have troubles, I'm just okay, go into this
Yes,
and change that.
that's correct. This is actually a little bit better as far as figuring out, Google's a little better at figuring out what you should use than Adobe Connect is. Because every time you change something on Adobe Connect, you have to go run that audio setup wizard every single time. You make any kind of change on your input, Google's a little better at like picking the one that works the best. But just clicking on these 2 buttons right here to mute your mic or to mute your camera, either one of those are really good if you're having poor quality. Just ask your students, please mute your mic. If you have an echo like that right there, which is people don't have headphones, you'll have an echo. Somebody doesn't have their mic muted. And I'm going to show you a way in a minute where you can manually mute their mic, but only under certain conditions.
You use the phrase mute your camera. What does that mean?
Like turn your camera off. Basically, it just gives a still of you, like the last thing. So if you're like making this goofy face, it's going to be stuck on that. It's a lot of fun, it really is. I'm telling you, Google Hangouts is a ton of fun. Because I'm not going to show you one because I can't show you an actual Google Hangout. But there's one that has crazy hats and mustaches and eyebrows and cat faces and all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, so the first one of these that I want to talk to you about, maybe you have a student who is not where they can get good internet, but you still want them to be able to hear what's going on. I just learned about this today. I have no idea what the limitations are on this, but the very first little box up here at the top is called U-Conference. There's no setup, there's no get a username, there's no find a phone number, there's nothing. You click on that and you just click through and it adds U-Conference to your Hangout. You have to do that every time, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to give you a phone number and a PIN that you then give to your students. They would call you on their cell phone, call that number, because I called from my cell phone to make sure it worked, and it even tells you where they are. Well, I'm in Alaska and I don't have internet. Well, that's funny because in here it shows that you're on campus. It's using location from their cell phone, so it knows where they are. It knew that my cell phone was in Oklahoma City. It's kind of scary. I'm telling you, this is scary good. Now, you can't see them. They can't see you, but they can hear what's going on in the room. So that's a way to get a student in. They don't have a computer. They don't have a webcam. They don't have internet. I bet you they've got a cell phone. If they have free long distance, it is going to be a long distance call. That's a great question. Because the number that it gave me was a 716 number. They're going to be using minutes and they're going to be using long distance. So that's something to think about before you offer this option. But if you just wanted students to hear what you're saying, that's a way to do it. Okay, so that's an option for you. It's called U-Conference, and it's the very top little thing. It looks like a little U right there. And mine had a little red dot. I had no idea what that was until about 2 hours ago. Okay, the next button down is the chat button. When you click that, you get a group chat on this side over here. I don't know of a way that you can save that chat unless you highlight, select all, copy, paste into a document. It's kind of unwieldy, but if you really need a record of that, if you're not recording this for video sake, and you just need a record of maybe the chat, what was said, then that's a way to do that. So that's a way, if you cannot communicate with a student, they can't hear you, you can't hear them, you can open that chat. And when you type something in the chat, they're going to get a little bitty notification right here, like a little 1, saying that there's a chat, and hopefully they'll click on it. Now, sometimes what happens is you're like, well, where did all of those things go? You have to click in the window right here to make those buttons come back, just FYI. Okay? So that's the chat function. It's over here. It works like every other chat. You've got emoticons. It's, you know, that's a really quick, easy way to communicate with people. The next thing is screen share. What if you want to show them something that's on your screen, like we're doing right now through Adobe Connect? I can screen share basically you can screen share applications, you can screen share a full monitor, or you can screen share one or the other of your desktops. So it'll give you the option, like what do you want to share? And you get to choose from a list. If you only have one application open and only have one desktop, it's probably just going to share your screen and not give you any options. Does that make sense? We all are pretty familiar with screen share. So you just basically click on that and you share your screen, and then there'll be a button that says stop sharing for you to stop sharing your screen, because it's going to share your screen until you tell it to stop. That's the thing about Google, is that the Hangouts, is it'll do whatever you're doing until you tell it to stop doing that. The next one is a capture. Just remember, of course, we are all going to be professional, but if you lose your cool, a student could do a screen capture. They can do a screen capture if something is said over here. So you just need to know that your students have the option to do a screen capture. Because all they have to do is click that, and everybody in the Hangout hears, it sounds just like a camera. That was a terrible imitation of a camera. But it sounds like a shutter on a camera. So you can also do that if you just need to capture a screenshot. You know, if you're talking to your daughter in Austria and you want to post that on Facebook, you probably, if you're friends with me or Michelle, you've probably seen that picture, because that's exactly how we did it, or how Jessica did it. Okay, control room. Control room is the next one down, and that's the one where I said you can manually mute other people's mics. You can manually mute other people's cameras, but it only is available when you're doing an on-air Hangout. You can turn their volume up and down. You can mute their camera. You can put them on the screen where they're the one talking, and that's what's being recorded. So you've got it is scary. Yes.
Gwen Hackler has a question. She wants to know how she can undo a share screenshot. She can't get out of it. Is that on your computer?
There should be a stop sharing. I can't remember exactly where that would be, but there should be a stop sharing button somewhere on the screen. Look for a green button, probably.
Jody, one question, a step back on
Yes.
the screen capture. Where does that file go?
Wherever, like mine automatically go to my desktop. I don't know
So
if
you
they're
just
always,
define a location.
yeah, wherever it would. I think it's just going to take a picture, and probably wherever your screenshots normally go. Like on a PC, it probably would go to the clipboard, more than likely.
Yeah.
Like a print screen on a PC, probably. So, good question. Questions about this in the on-air. I'm going to show you a little bit of what that looks like here in a minute. I'll give you a little bit more on that in a minute. But questions about it? If you've ever been in a producer's booth and you, like on TV, and they've got all these different controls, that's a little bit of what this is like. Well, this is a little bit like that. Sorry, it's not that complicated. This is a little bit like that. Okay, the next one down is Google Drive, and this is probably my favorite because I use Google Docs all the time. If I click on Google Drive, it's going to open up all of my documents, and I can select to share a document in the screen. Like my camera still shows down here. I'm not showing someone my document. I'm putting my document into the Hangout. So then Jessica, which is who I shared this with, Jessica gets a little, she has to click the Google Drive. That's the key for using Google Drive in a Hangout. Your students also have to open it in their window. They have to click Google Drive too. If you've shared something, there will be a little bitty, several little icons of whatever you've shared. So on hers, I looked at it and there were two little PDF icons, just like this right here, only it didn't have the titles and everything, it just had these icons. Now, if you squint really hard, you can see that this is a triangle with an exclamation point in it. What does that generally mean? Some sort of caution, or hey, this needs attention. Well, I hadn't shared those documents with Jessica. So Jessica went to the first document, clicked on it, and it said, you don't have access to see this. You can request access. If I would have clicked here, it would have said, hey, Jessica doesn't have access to this, or this class doesn't have access. Whoever's in the Hangout doesn't have access. Do you want to give them access? Do you want to give them access to edit? Do you want to give them access to view? Basically, it lets you change the sharing on that document right there. It is awesome, because when your think about your students, you exposing them to Google Hangouts, and they're somebody in Dumas, Texas, somebody in New York City, and somebody in New Orleans, Louisiana, and they're doing a group project, making a presentation together. They all go into a Hangout, they open the single presentation document that they're working on, and they all work together, and they're just talking. I mean, literally, if I could teach any class if somebody would just set me up in a Google Hangout in the classroom. Because all of my stuff is on Google Docs, I can do it right there. You don't even have to leave your house. And I could teach any class from home. It's scary. Questions? I'll stop for questions about Google Docs. When you click Google Docs, if you are going, okay, nobody can see my document, just remember you need to tell them, click the Google Drive symbol, and that will open, allow the app or open the app, and then they'll get a little skinny window over here about the width of these PDF icons right here. And it'll show an icon for each document that you've shared. And you just tell them to click on that. And if they don't have access, it'll say request access. They'll do it. You'll get a notification. Questions about that before we move on?
So when you're looking at this document with your student, there'll still be the two boxes, the
Right. They'll
two or
still
three of you.
see a live view of you down here at the bottom.
Okay, so when you're talking, saying on number 1 up here,
Right. Right. Because if you highlight on the document, they're going to see your cursor highlight that on the document. There's going to be a little colored cursor with your name beside it. So they're going to know exactly where you're pointing to actually that way, assuming they're looking at that part of the document. Good question. Other questions?
That's different from screen share in that your picture. Because they can see
Correct.
all that.
That's correct.
Screen share.
Exactly. Yes. That's the easy way. It's like if you don't want them to click on and start working on it, you may not need to go to the Google Docs. You might just want to do a screen share. Hey, I want to show you guys this document that I emailed to you last week. Pay attention here. Pay attention here. You wouldn't need to do Google Drive for that. Just do a screen share. You just have it up in a window. Good question. Say again.
And when we was talking, she's trying to share documents.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry. Okay, the next one down is called remote desktop. How many of you are tech support for your family? Remote desktop. You go into remote desktop, click on that icon, and whoever else you're in the Hangout with, it'll say, do you want to help Jessica Bowie? I click help Jessica Bowie. She gets a notification that says, Jody Bowie is trying to help you, accept or decline. She accepted, and I then had control of her computer. So instead of saying, no, click right there, you just remote desktop and you click for them. So much easier. I mean, it is fantastic.
And that's on shared,
That's remote
I mean,
desktop.
it's actually an icon on the side.
Yes, it's the little life preserver.
Oh,
I mean, how appropriate that they would do a life preserver, right? That's a good one, though. Right under that, you may not have these same icons necessarily the first time you go in, but right under that, there's 3 little dots. If you click that, you'll get more apps, and so you have Google Effects, and it even says right here, silly hats and more. So Dr. Seuss hat, there's a birthday hat, there's all kinds of crazy hats, mustaches, there's some really good mustaches. And when you move on the screen, it tracks your face and the mustache moves with you. It's scary. I'm telling you, it's scary. It really is. Like scary cool, though. So that's a fun one. The Hangout Toolbox is probably one of my favorites. And this is why I like the Hangout Toolbox. Because I can then put a lower third on there with an icon that I chose, put my name and what I do and where I'm from, and everybody else in the Hangout then sees who I am, where I'm from, when I'm talking. They don't go, who was that guy again? I mean, he won't shut up, but I can't remember who that was. Well, now they know, right? You can turn that on and off, and this is what that looks like over here. You can have multiple things, so you can create multiple layouts. You can choose your color. You can upload an icon. You can put whatever text you want, anything that you want on there within appropriate limits. And then you can save those presets. Once I click on this, it automatically turns my last used one on. And then I can just close out of that. I can close out of the toolbox, and that toolbox goes away and my lower third stays on there. We did a hangout with several other Nazarene universities, like a tech day where we kind of all just talked together, like this is what we're doing, like a presentation thing. And we were the only ones that had this. So
That's like real TV, Joe.
I mean, it really is. It is really cool.
It's TV.
It really is. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Hangouts on Air. Hangouts on Air is not easy to find. It's a little bit difficult to get to. So I created a shortcut for you, and it's tinycc/Hangouts on Air. And that will take you to a page where you can just click Start an On-Air Hangout. Because I can't really find a real easy way to do this, and it's probably just me missing it. Or maybe I was just in a hurry to finish this presentation and I didn't take the time to find the right way. But I mean, you can just type that into your browser, tiny.cc/Hangouts on Air. And I had already clicked Start a Hangout on Air, but that's what this blue button is right here in the middle of the page. And so here's my Hangout on Air. Now, the cool thing about Hangouts on Air is you can do it right now, or you can schedule it for later. For instance, I set up a Hangout on Air just kind of as a test, saying, okay, pretend like Jessica's in another country, JC's in another country, and Michelle and I are here. It's JC's birthday. We all want to hang out together. So I set up an online meeting room for us at 7 o'clock tonight. So they would get an email that says, you've been invited tonight at 7 o'clock to be here, and you can set the time. You just click between now and later. You can set the date, you can set the time, you can set the duration, you can add your people down here, and then you click share. And there you go. So here's what's going to happen with that Hangout on Air. That Hangout on Air is also going to be on YouTube. Now, it's going to be recorded for you. That's the key thing about Hangouts on Air, is that it's recorded for you. And the link that gets someone to watch it live is the same link as it is to watch it recorded. So you don't have two links to play with, which is a fantastic thing for me. So that's recorded. And what would it look like? Well, actually, I didn't show you what it would look like, but basically on my Google Plus page, there was a deal that said, here's your Hangout on Air, and I could click up here to play it, or I could join the Hangout, one or the other, depending on what I wanted to do. I clicked on the play, and it said, this doesn't start for another 6.5 hours. There's nobody here. There's nothing happening. You just need to wait. I clicked join, and it let me in, and then I could play with the control room. I could play with the control room right here. So I open the control room, and you can see it would have the list of everybody in the Hangout. I could mute their mic, I could mute their camera, I could turn their volume up or down. It also has this enhancement thing. Do you see how clear my face is, but everything else is blurry? If you click Spotlight, it tracks your face and everything else in the room is blurry. I just thought that was cool. You can change it to black and white. Oh, have some blemishes? You can smooth your skin. It'll automatically smooth everything.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Is that how when CNN or Channel 4 shows you something and then blacks out the children's faces? Is that
No, it's kind of the opposite of that. But that's a recorded video that they've manually gone in and put something on each frame. I'm pretty sure. Ken, is that right? Okay, that's what I thought. But this is kind of the opposite, where it's real time, and so your face is going to be, you know, maybe you've got, I don't know, maybe there's something hanging on the wall of your office that you don't want everybody to see. You've got some mushy Valentine card up there or something. They're just going to see a blur of it. They're not going to be able to read what it says. Like, you can see that that's a cup right there, but you can't tell that it's an on-cue cup, right? So it just kind of blurs everything in the background, which I thought was cool. I just learned that 2 hours ago. Smooth, black and white, original, warm, brighten, and focus. So it's got a few different auto enhancements, which are really cool. But the control room, though, really is pretty neat. Now, here's the thing. What if you decided everybody has joined, you want to go ahead and start the broadcast, you don't want to wait until 7 o'clock? You can click, you click this off air button, and it'll give you the option down here to click start broadcast. You have to start that broadcast or you're not recording. If you start the broadcast, then you're recording, and it'll be in your YouTube channel. You'll be able to go back and get to that. Questions about on-air Hangouts? This is actually different than a Google Live event, which I think you can also do, which is not recorded. I think it just plays on YouTube live, but I don't think it's recorded. I have not explored live events, but I did notice one little thing made me think there's a difference between live events and on-air Hangouts. And you can look in the frequently asked questions, like, when do I want one or when do I want the other? So.
Since you can record this and save it, are you recommending this rather than using Camtasia, or just as another option?
No, this is more for, Camtasia would be like for lecture, saving lecture. This is more for like a class period, if you wanted to record a class period. That's a good question. Different purposes, really. Question?
Tara had a question. Is there a way to not share publicly while you are recording? Like if she's talking, recording a conference session of her students' papers.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, you set that up ahead of time. Actually, if you set it up through your calendar, let me show you what the calendar looks like. Like setting something up within your calendar. So I'm just going to make a new event right here. It's going to be my test event. I go into edit, add video call. I was thinking that would give me the option to make that on air so it would record that, but I could be wrong. Well, I just showed you another way. I haven't answered your question, Tara, but that's another way to create a Hangout. And then you just click right over here and you invite some people. And rather than them getting an email necessarily, they just go to the event on their calendar and it gives them a link to join the video call. That's a nice way to do like a conference call or something like that. Okay. An on-air Hangout, I'm pretty sure that you can set it up ahead of time, go onto your YouTube channel and set that as private, where then it would never show up in a feed. Nobody has a link to it. There's no way anybody could find that video. If that doesn't work, Tara, let me know and we'll explore that option together.
If you do down at the bottom right there?
That's actually how it shows up on your calendar. Because I've shared my calendar, like Lisa has access, Tamara, Gwen, Michelle, Jessica, they all have access to my calendar. If I mark something as private, then nobody's going to see that event unless I invite somebody to it. So that won't even show up on my calendar when they're looking at it. Great question. Good question.
Is that like you said, you could schedule for later, 7 o'clock tonight, 3 Hangouts on there. Well, what if I don't necessarily want to do a recording of it? Is through the calendar how you could schedule?
Yeah, that'd be the easiest way to do that.
Like,
Yes.
see you tonight at 7? And
Yes.
you can still do that, but
Right.
not do that.
But you're not recording it. Exactly. If you don't want to do it on air, that would be the easiest way to do it. Is just set up an event, edit the event, click add video call. And then on their calendar, they'll click on the event and it'll give them a link to join that video call.
And they have to do your calendar, so it doesn't send an email.
I think they actually get an email as well. I'm pretty sure they get an email also. So they could, at the bare minimum, they could at least get to the event and then click. But I think it has a join video call in the email. I'm not sure about that though. Good question. What other questions? My intent was for you guys to have a little bit of working time, but as usual, I've talked too much. Okay, so some resources for you. The video that I told you that, like, it will walk you through, if you've never been on Google Plus, it will walk you through setting up Google Plus and setting up your YouTube channel, verifying it. This is a video that, like, you could have just watched the 16-minute video and forget about even coming to see me today. But that's kind of pointless because then you wouldn't get to see me today. So that is GOO.GL/8XMS. That video will walk you through setting up your YouTube account and your Google Plus account. If you log into your email, I'm going to navigate away from this just for 1 second, okay? If you log into your email and you look at the top right here, and it doesn't say plus Alan or plus Koshi or plus Lauren or whatever, it just says plus you have not set up your Google Plus account. If it does say plus Alan or plus Koshi or plus Lauren, then you have set up your Google account. That's how you know if you've set it up. Doesn't mean that it won't ask you more questions the first time you go to it. And that's how you get to Google Plus, actually. It's just by clicking on your name up there. So it may ask you some more questions like, hey, don't you want to find some friends? Don't you want to fill in your birthday? Don't you want to upload a picture? Which I recommend all of those. The guy on the video is going to tell you to do all of those too. Okay. Number one, it helps with identity, because if somebody hacks your account and they ask for like a verification, they've actually got a picture of you. Don't put a picture of Hello Kitty up there or something like that. Put a picture of your face. Okay. Because that actually helps with identity. If you are going to upload, sometime later they ask you to upload an ID of yourself because someone's hacked your account or something like that. Same thing with your birthday. It's just a way to verify, okay? You can choose in your settings, you can choose to share that or not share that. That's totally up to you. Okay. And then finally, if you are more of a written type person, you like written instructions on how to do something, setting up your Google Plus account, tiny.cc/SMU Google Plus. That'll take you to the Google's page for how to set up your Google Plus account. So there are written instructions there. There's also, I'm pretty sure there's some video at the bottom of that page. And then the last one, if you just need to verify your YouTube channel, so you can do longer than 15 minutes, GOO.GL/K, lowercase y, capital C, capital P, capital G, lowercase I.